What if the absolute best decision you ever made was the very thing that destroyed your life? It sounds crazy, right? Well, today we're jumping into a story where doing the right thing leads straight to ruin, and where real power shows up in the most unlikely places. We're talking about the story of Joseph, a guy whose life was just one dramatic high after another, followed by some devastating lows. And that's really the question at the very heart of this story. I mean, what does happen when doing the right thing costs you everything? It's a question that pushes a person's character to the absolute limit, and our guy Joseph is about to face it head on. So let's get into it. All right, so our story kicks off in Egypt. You can picture it, this grand, rich land, but a tough place to be if you're at the bottom. And that's exactly where we find Joseph. He's a young man, sold into slavery, and he ends up working for this guy named Potiphar, who's a pretty big deal in Pharaoh's court. But believe me, Joseph's situation is about to change in a way nobody could have seen coming.
And this is where things get really interesting. See, Joseph's success isn't just chalked up to him being a hard worker. The source text says the Lord was with Joseph, and because of that, he was a successful man. It's like everything he touched just prospered. And this isn't some small detail, folks. This is the reason for his incredible rise. I mean, look at this path he took. It's just wild. He starts out as a slave in Potiphar's house. But then, because of this incredible success that seems to follow him everywhere, he proves his worth. And pretty soon, he's appointed the overseer of the entire household. It gets to the point where he's entrusted with literally everything Potiphar owns. Talk about a promotion.
Okay, and get this. The text says, Potiphar did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. Just let that sink in for a second. The only thing the master had to worry about was his own dinner. Everything else, the house, the money, the staff, was all in Joseph's hands. He had reached the absolute peak of trust and power. But, the higher you climb, the harder you can fall. So just when Joseph is at the top of his game, a whole new problem appears. And this one isn't coming from some outside enemy. Nope, it's coming from inside the house. Potiphar's wife, well, she notices him. And Joseph is about to face a moral crisis that will change everything. And her proposition is, well, it's incredibly direct and just as dangerous. Lie with me. That's it. And she doesn't just say it once. We're told she says it day after day. So this isn't just some passing thought for her. It's a constant, relentless pressure that puts Joseph in a completely impossible spot. So how does Joseph respond? He flat out refuses. And his reasoning is really powerful. He basically says, how can I do this? Look, my master trusts me with everything in this house. The only thing he hasn't put in my charge is you. So how could I do this great wickedness and sin against God? He's loyal to his boss, for sure, but he's also thinking on a whole other level about his own integrity. So Joseph makes his choice. He chooses integrity. But as we're about to see in this story, doing the right thing comes with a heavy price. A devastating price, actually. His refusal is the trigger for a chain of events that is going to bring his entire world crashing down. And the final confrontation happens so fast, it's brutal. One day, Joseph goes into the house to do his work, and nobody else is inside. It's just them. She sees her chance and grabs him by his cloak. He does the only thing he can think of. He runs for it, but he leaves the garment right there in her hand. And that piece of clothing, that's going to be the proof she uses against him. So now she has his cloak. And with that, she spins this completely false story. She calls out to the other servants and later tells her husband, claiming that the Hebrew servant came in to mock her and only ran away when she screamed for help. It's the exact opposite of what happened, but it's a convincing lie. And it's the lie that's going to seal his fate. And for Joseph, the consequences are immediate and just catastrophic. That incredible rise to power is matched by a fall that is just as fast and just as brutal. And Potiphar, he hears his wife's side of the story, and that's it. He hears one perspective, and his anger just explodes. He doesn't investigate. He doesn't ask Joseph. He just acts. The man he trusted with everything is now thrown into prison. And there he was, in the prison. Just like that, from running a whole estate to being locked in a dungeon. And really, the story could have just ended there, right? With Joseph rotting away in some forgotten cell. But it's not the end. Even in the darkness of that prison, something starts to happen. A familiar pattern begins to emerge. The very same qualities that helped Joseph rise in Potiphar's house start to show themselves again. It's almost like his character can't be locked down, even by stone walls. And here's the line that changes everything. Again, but the Lord was with Joseph. Does that sound familiar? It should. It's the exact same phrase we heard at the beginning of his story, right before his big promotion. So here, in the absolute pit of despair, that same line signals that another comeback is coming. It's this incredible hint that Joseph's success was never really about his location, but about something else entirely. And would you believe it, his rise in prison is almost a perfect mirror of his rise in Potiphar's house. Back there, he found favor with his master, was made overseer, and everything he did prospered. Now in prison, he finds favor with the keeper of the prison, he's put in charge of all the other prisoners, and, you guessed it, whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. It's this amazing parallel that really shows you it was his character all along. So when you boil it all down, what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, Joseph's success was always linked to this idea of divine favor. Second, he stuck to his integrity, even when it cost him dearly. His fall from power was instant, and it was all based on a lie. But then, that pattern of success repeated itself, even in prison. It really seems like his character, not his location, was what determined his influence. You know, this story is just such a timeless reminder that we can't always control what happens to us. Our circumstances can change in an instant, but we can always control our character, how we respond, who we choose to be. And maybe, in the end, that's the only thing that really matters. So it leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? When our circumstances change, what truly remains in our control?